Falcons head coach Dan Quinn. Dan, we appreciate your time this morning. Thanks for being with us. Before we get to things that perhaps are way more important, I just wanted to get your reaction to the news about what may be coming up in this offseason and the preseason. Maybe only 2 games and everybody getting to camp on time. A sort of a different landscape as we ramp up for what we hope will be the start of the 2020 NFL season on time.
Yeah, Trey and Mike, man, I'm always glad to be on with you guys. So, yeah, I think what we've all learned this off season is that, man, we have to be adjustable. It's like a quick response team. So we have, obviously some good guidelines for what, camp could look like. And then you start going into, what are the options from there. And I think you just keep coming back to the readiness of the team. Way early on, Trey, we had, told the players when this was going to happen in terms of, doing things virtually, there was going to have to be some player coach going on for a while until we got back together. And so I've been pumped for the guys, knowing what they put in together on the field, away from the buildings and away from the office. So I think we'll have to be adjustable, man. That's the biggest, takeaway I've got from this. So much has changed in our world and our work for you guys and for us too over the last 3 months. And I have a sense it'll probably change again, man.
We just saw, Coach, the memo from the league that all the camps, except for the 2 teams that start early, they'll start 3 days earlier. All camps need to start by July 28th. Do you believe that you will see your players together in your facility before that, or do you think that will be the first time?
I think that'll be the first time, Mike. And what we'll do is utilize, some of the guidelines where, having the rookies, first-year players who can, potentially earlier than those dates when the whole team reports. And I think that's going to be an important one. Think back to the rookie years of yourself where you need that time and some reps. So we'll try to max out everything we can. But, yeah, we're certainly anticipating, moving forward on time. There's a lot of things that have to go into that and testing and stuff. So, the main thing we've just tried to do is just kind of like stay right in the moment of where we're at, Mike, to say for the players and for the coaches, let's throw a hell of a week and hit none of these things. But we're certainly anticipating, everybody coming back together at that time.
And Coach, one of the things that we all anticipate, and every time we talk to someone from the world of football, it always ends with, well, we know eventually people get on the field and the contact that comes with that is very hard to be socially distant during. And I'm curious, as someone who's certainly, and even in your past,
for like a center and a DT.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think of all those guys that were already lining up in the neutral zone trying to punch me in the face before I snapped it. I'm curious, have you looked into, is there any way you've thought of maybe having to alter the way that you practice in order to adjust for the things that we know right now?
Yeah, not right now, Mike, as far as the practice goes. I think what so much comes around is everything around practice. So think of locker room, think of meeting rooms, how do you have a team meeting? How do you have a group meeting, with 50 people? And so those are the things, that's your alarm that we're going. Those are the things that take up the most time, Mike, to think of. How do you lift, how many groups together? But practice-wise, we haven't had, discussions on what that would look like just, from a, spacing of social distance in that space. So, physical distancing. So that part hasn't, but a lot of conversations about when you're in the building.
Yeah, and then you're going to have to be on the field and actually getting rid of social distancing because as Herm Edwards says, you can't play football and be good at social distancing. Those things are counterintuitive, as Dan Quinn, Falcons head coach, is with us.
Herm always has the right things to say.
He does. Also, don't press send. Nothing good happens after midnight. The Hermisms are lengthy and they are legendary, Dan. There's no question about it. But then there's the issue of everything that's going on in this country. And you and GM Thomas Dimitroff marched with your players on the march to the governor's office in Atlanta. What is the message you wanted to send to your team and to those people, to everybody who has been so upset about everything, rightly so, that has happened for so long in this country? What is the overriding message you as a leader of men wanted to get across?
Well, I think all of us would agree, and I probably spoke of this a few years ago. I wish the world could see our locker room. And for all of us that have, been part of, team sports, we know that's a special spot. It's so unique. But I also, let's recognize not all players and coaches have the same experience outside the locker room. And man, I really hate that. So back to last Sunday, the thing that probably fired me up the most, Trey, was it was really inspiring to see so many diverse people who now are no longer accepting things they thought maybe they couldn't change, but instead have totally committed to now changing things. Like, I'm no longer going to accept this. I want in, I want to help. And so that to me was why, being a part of that, to say, saying I support you isn't enough anymore. There has to be, some change, and there has to be some action for that change to happen. So it was a really cool thing to be a part of that. And for me, it wasn't my last one for sure. It was just, getting started. And I think now it's up to all of us, who have the ability to do this, to keep the conversations about Black Lives Matter and racism going so we can work towards some solutions.
Obviously, you were around 2016 in coaching players and around society when Colin Kaepernick first knelt and started things in the NFL as far as the peaceful protest. And now we see what's happening now. Do you see it different now, like more things are at least starting to get accomplished, or there seems to be a lot more serious talk this time around?
I do. And I think from that, listening is incredibly important. And so I guess I'll look back to like last Sunday night, maybe, Mike, in that space. And so I had, a meeting with the team, and not even the team, maybe about 15 or 20 guys. And you recognized, people were really hurting under the surface. And a lot of people weren't ready for action yet, still pissed and anger. And so then now we've moved into, we want to make some change. So here in Atlanta, probably the most impressive start to this for me was our mayor, Keisha Bottoms. She is a badass. And so the way she spoke, about a week or so ago, her toughness, her resiliency, I asked her to speak to the team following that. And so it's moments like that, Mike, that I think I'm hopeful that this is something we'll look back on and say a before and an after.